Boom, boom. How's it going? How's it going? It is I, your boy TJ, and I am here talking about evictions, evictions, evictions. It is a painful discussion, even though I am smiling. What gives me the right to talk about evictions? Well, I do have tenants, just over 200 tenants that I've got across the country in the 5 cities that we operate. And over and above that, I also have an additional 350 students that we are managing across the 5 cities that we are in South Africa. So obviously you might be thinking, whoo, TJ, you potentially have a lot of evictions that you do. Not necessarily so. But I want to talk today more specifically about evictions when it comes to acquiring a new property. Evictions when you are acquiring a new property. This has happened to me before, and I wouldn't like this to happen to anyone else. So, whenever you're buying a new property, and this is one of those bigger problems when you are starting off as a newbie in property investing, you see a property that is fully functional and they already have tenants on that property, and you are buying this property and then you inherit the tenants. Is there anything wrong with inheriting tenants? No, there isn't. Actually, it's a very good thing to do from an economical perspective, because guess what happens? Your income continues. Yes, your income continues and you don't have a dip in terms of your bought property. Now you need to find tenants. But remember, these are not your tenants. They are someone else's tenants. That someone else had their own rules, regulations. They collected, I don't know how they used to collect. And I'm going to give you a short story. I bought a property out in an area where a policeman used to own this building. And because he was a policeman, he used to collect very well. And guess what used to happen? He used to pitch up there, obviously in his police attire, and he used to collect his rent cash. So he would pick up the rent and he would go directly to the ATM and he would deposit that. So it actually looked like the people were paying rent very good. But in actual fact, I'm not a policeman. I've never been a policeman, and I don't think I'll ever want to be a policeman. I don't think I'm qualified to be a policeman. With that, I almost want to say here, the thing is that even if you look at it nicely, this policeman was utilizing his power of being a policeman in a way that was, it was there but not there. You know what I mean? So he was enforcing the law, his law, by utilizing the law. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense, right? So obviously, as the policeman, he pitches up there. Obviously, I mean, if a policeman pitches up and I'm the tenant here and he's wearing his uniform, what can happen, right? Anything can happen, you know. So I'm gonna pay the rent, and basically this is what happened. But the moment that I moved into the building, this building, and this was boom, COVID hit, and we were not allowed to do evictions. And everyone didn't pay rent. Yeah, right. So, did I call on the policeman to go and collect rent? No, he's gone. He's the seller. He's gone. So what do? Do you inherit? Naturally, in our business, we do not like the idea of inheriting tenants. But sometimes we do. I'm going to talk about when do we do and when we don't do that. What is the effect of evicting when you're doing that, right? That's what I want to talk about. So let's talk about the process. You've got a tenant, you're buying a property, whether it's a building, small building, 1 bed, 2 bath, whatever the case is going to be. And this is the property now that you're buying. Do you evict the person or not? Do you evict the person or not? Well, this is not your tenant to begin with. It is the landlord's tenants. Or should I say it is the seller's tenants. At this junction, because you are buying, you have the obligation to say, I don't want your tenant or I want them. Yes, there might be rules to say that and laws to say that the tenants need to live their life on the property. Yes, you can do that if you want to. You can negotiate that if you want to. There's lots of room for you to negotiate. So the process here now is that for me, I do not inherit anyone. So at this junction, whilst we are buying the property, what are we going to do? We're going to say to the buyer, to the seller, Mr. Seller, you need to evict this person on your own. We will take possession of the property empty. That way, I don't need to evict anyone. Going back to the story of the policeman, guess what happened? Because of COVID, we had to inherit everyone. When we inherited everyone, guess what happened? They stopped paying rent. I had no idea who's in the building. I had no idea what kind of pets they have in the building. I had no idea how many people are staying in the building. So obviously from that perspective, I was in a bad position to be ever talking about evictions. So that became a nightmare. But this is TJ that you're talking about. We always find a way to win at M5 Property Addicts. So what is that way? When you are buying a property and there is someone that is already within the property, if you happen to inherit them, right? So the first one is don't inherit anyone. So you're not taking anyone's problem and that's it. The second option is that you are potentially going to inherit them for whatever reason, right? I can mention a whole lot of reasons here, and COVID being one of them. So what do you now need to do? At least understand in your own rules and regulations, right? In your own rules and regulations. Remember in the other video, we spoke about how you can actually vet these tenants. So whilst they are still with the buyer, whilst they are still with the seller, and this time what you actually need to be doing is you need to vet them. Irrespective, you're going to inherit them anyway. Why do you now need to vet them? To understand who they are. Are they employed? Are they self-employed? Do they work for Joshua Doe? Do they work for ABSA? Do they work for FMB? What do they do? How many people are staying in the building? All of those things. Now you start your own record to actually understand who they are. Yes, TJ, but why are you doing this? Because you're just inheriting them. Because you need to understand who is staying in your property. If you understand who you're staying in your property, you actually understand how you can be able to evict them, right? And also you can start what I call segregation. You can start segregating to see who are your good tenants versus your bad tenants, or who are your likely good tenants, who are your likely bad tenants. And with that, you can then be able to start managing them carefully as things happen, right? Okay, so in this case here, the tenant that you now have is an inherited tenant, and now you have vetted them, you are happy with them, and some of them you are not happy with. Do you give them notice? Yes, you can if you want to, but if it is in COVID time, you can't do that. So you need to live with them, right? But if ever you now need to evict them, this is the first time now I am. So do you switch off the electricity or do you switch off the water? No, you cannot do that. All of those things are not allowed by law, right? I know that some of you have done it. I can see it and you're surprised. It's not allowed. Yes, it's not allowed. So here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Once you decide to go into any business, any form of business, I urge you, please, to go and read the regulations around it. Because sometimes you could be following what you are thinking is good is actually very bad for you when you go to things like the courts, the tribunal courts and things like that. So read about it. There is an act that is called the Rental Act in South Africa. If you don't know this document, it's a public document. It tells you the do's and the don'ts, right? So, and if you have never seen this document anywhere before, maybe go through to a lawyer somewhere who understands law and ask them, how can you explain this for me, right? This is the reason why I hang out with people like Elize, so that they can tell me and translate to me what these important documents are all about. But if you have never read that document before, I urge you to go and read it, right? It is an important document, and if you're wanting to take your property business very seriously, it's important for you to know what is in it and what is not in there, what is allowed, what is not allowed. So let's talk about it. This person here is in your property, right? What do you do? Like literally, what do you do now, right? They're saying to you that they cannot pay rent. Again, I'm going to urge you, this is the simplest way ever and the cheapest way that I've also seen. jump onto TPN. It sounds like I'm selling them, but I'm not. I'm just giving you tools that are out there that I've seen that have helped me, that are helpful. So jump onto TPN. I'm assuming that at this moment, you don't have Expello, because if you did have Expello, I'd have just said, hey, just call in Expello and then ask them to expel and evict everyone out of your property. But you don't have it at this junction. So I'm going to say go to TPN. When you jump onto TPN, right, there's a letter of demand that you need to be sending to them to say, look, you haven't paid rent. There's a letter. You need to keep that copy. So there is a few letters that you now need to be sending to this individual, and you're following the processes of the court, right? Because by the time that you're going to want to go to the court, and already I can hear in the back of your head like, TJ, never, me, never, I won't go to court. What if the tenant then takes you to court? Yeah, it has happened. I have been taken to court myself. I've been there. I've been there with Elize, and we danced with the attorneys, and we danced with everyone else there. I say it in a joking manner right now. At the time, it was not. I am preparing you right now. So what do you do then? In TPN, there is a few documents that you need to follow step by step. Follow that. Follow them in terms of timelines, right? Follow them. Follow them in terms of timelines. Follow everything else that needs to be done. At this junction, if you don't know anything about it and everything is now getting confused, just call in an attorney who does evictions and ask them, what should I do? This person hasn't paid rent. It's now month number 1. What can I do? Don't wait for it when it's about 3 months, 4 months, or even 6 months. And now you're really emotionally frustrated. Remember, keep it as a business, right? It is a business, so run it as a business. I know that some of these people, because they're staying in your property, now you feel like you have to do other things, you know, and you have to act, be dramatic, and you don't have to do that, right? It's just going to weigh you down. It's not necessary for you to do that. So, does this apply if I am in the location? Yes, it does. We are all under the same rule in South Africa. Does it apply if you're in? The moment you decide that you're going to work it through as a business, the more it is going to make sense for you, because then you now need to be using business tools, right? So all of us, we are all in South Africa. And all of us, we are governed by the same rules. So what applies in other areas applies in all areas, right? So what am I basically saying here, right? Irrespective whether the tenant is staying by you on your premises or whether they are staying in one of your other places, the rules are the same. Are you going to be switching off electricity or water? No, you're not allowed to do that. But what you can do, there is a process that you can follow. In that process, I'm giving you the tools and the templates in which you can be able to follow the process of evictions. And that you can get it on tpn.co.za. They're not paying me to do this. I just like their tools. I've utilized their tools. I keep on utilizing their tools. And they are also much cheaper as opposed of being ignorant, right? As opposed of ignoring. Ignorant and ignoring are two different things here. So don't ignore this advice that Uncle TJ is giving you. Go and check out. And hold on. Don't wait until you have an eviction to go and understand these things, because now you're going to be working from a point of frustration. The moment you are going to have a tenant in, follow the right process, and then thereafter you can now go in and double check what are the process that I need to follow, and put in those templates already, right? Download the templates and make sure that you have them somewhere. And when the D-Day ever happens, when it does happen, just go and double check. Has they changed? Has the process changed? Yes, no. If it has, change it. And if it hasn't, then you start sending out your letters, right? In the meantime, you continue pressing for your money, right? But if you did have Expello in this case, you don't need to be pressing for nothing, because then Expello will be able to sort this out. How about rental guarantees? The same thing applies, right? If you do have any rental guarantees, there are many companies out there that are offering rental guarantees. I suggest that it's also another way you can make sure that whilst you are evicting someone like this, you have your rental guarantees. But all of these rental guarantees, they work on the same premises of the tenant that you're onboarding, the tenant that is coming in to stay in your property. Is it a good tenant? If the answer is yes, the rent guarantees are going to guarantee you the rent. But if it is not, they might not give you the rent guarantee. Right. So in that case, you now need to figure out within this rent guarantee that you've got, if you do already have it, or if you don't have it, start searching online rent guarantees. Literally have a spreadsheet, right? Have a spreadsheet, rent guarantee company A, B, C, D. What are they offering? 1, 2, 3, 4. You put it down. What are they? Company B, what are they offering? 1, 2. Company C, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 25. Oh, okay. But how much am I paying? I'm paying around 1 rand there, I'm paying 2 rand there, I'm paying. Then you do an analysis to see where you're going to get best for your buck, right? If it is going to be company C, then go with company C. Try to see what is their experience. Maybe you've got 5 or 6 properties. So utilize one of your properties there as a guinea pig and another one there. See their custom service. The test is always in the pudding. When you actually need to utilize the rent guarantee itself, whether it is going to work. And if it's going to work, move your entire portfolio there and then make it work. And that way, once you're doing the evictions, you got some rental income, so you're not out of pocket, right? So in this video here, I know we're talking about evictions, but I am just telling you some of the other things that you may need to do before you evict. Right? Remember, eviction is a one-time event, right? I'm evicting you, right? And maybe you want to bring in the red Berettas and all of those guys. Maybe you don't have to do that. If you're following these processes that I'm talking about in the meantime, then you don't have to have even the red Berettas coming in. Maybe you don't even have to go to court and all of those things. It is I, your boy, TJ, talking about evictions.